Yes.
All right. Good evening, folks. Again, my name is Michael Mirando. I'm with Tremblay Financial Services here in Santa Barbara. To tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a third generation Santa Barbaran. I've been here continuously since about 1980. My father was in the military and traveled the world, and I traveled with him. And after college, actually after high school, I came to Santa Barbara and lived here off and on until about 1990, and then I've been here continuously since then, doing a number of different things. Been most recently in the finance industry for about 7 years now, of which I've been with Tremblay Financial just short of a year. So I've been working with Tim Tremblay here. Tremblay Financial is a, some of you living in town may have the name recognition of it. Just recently we were selected for the 10th year in a row, the Reader's Choice, News Press Reader's Choice Financial Advisory Group for the 10th time in the year. So great recognition. I don't know, so some of you said you may have known Tim? My wife. Your wife, yes. I went to school with Tim. Tim went to Bishop High School and has been very active in the community. You may have heard a number of his television shows or his radio shows. But we're in the financial advising and retirement planning industry here in Santa Barbara. So you can look at us as trying to help people get their financial affairs in order, to conserve their wealth, to grow their wealth, and then ultimately to pass that wealth on to their heirs. And so what I'm going to be doing today is kind of piggyback on what Dimitri has said. He did a fantastic job setting the foundation. I think what I'm going to be doing is kind of filling in a few things around the financial industry, kind of some of the things that are going on in the markets, make some observations on the market, give you some food for thought, establish and kind of verify a number of the concepts that Dimitri brought to us this evening, and give you some of the reasons why and some of the things that you should be looking at. I'm going to talk about a couple different strategies as it relates to how we're going to shelter some of our money, kind of using some of the similar tactics that Dimitri had shared with us. Maybe introduce you a couple new products that are available to you both in a C Corp environment as well as a private individual. So basically what I've done is showing you right here is the debt clock. And I show this to you. This is not about having we're not going to have a public discussion here. We're not going to debate, you know, who's a good leader, who's not. It's irrelevant. What we're doing, what my job is to take that which is, this is, don't care how I got here, don't know why it happened, not going to blame anybody for it, but we as intelligent individuals need to take information, dissect it enough to understand it, and then figure out what to do with it, okay? So I'm going to make some observations for you here, give you some ideas. And again, it's not a rock throwing competition. This is just, we're gonna just look at some figures, we're going to talk about, make some general observations, kind of construe it to you as an individual, you as a family, you as a business, the way in which you conduct your business, and then we're going to make some correlations as it relates. Okay, so today, starting off right now, we've got 16 trillion, almost 17 trillion dollars in debt. Keep that number there. Right now, we've got our gross domestic product, which is the total amount of goods and services that the entire United States has made sold. Okay, so cost of goods sold, everything, services, every penny, nickel, dime, and quarter that we've made this year, everybody, all of us, businesses and such alike, have made almost just short of 16 trillion. Some of you may have read in the Santa Barbara News Press about a week and a half ago, we were looking at the budget, and we've got a preliminary budget out there, and we're kind of trying to figure out what we're going to do for 2014, so we started our conversations today. Looking backwards over 2012 and now into here to 2013, right now the amount of money that the U.S. government is bringing in is $2.5 trillion. And the amount of money that we've spent so far this year, the amount of money that we've already spent and already gone out, is $3.5 trillion, almost $3.6 trillion. So So sitting today, my business, I just brought in 2.5 trillion, and I'm spending 3.5 trillion. I've got a $1 trillion deficit. I'm spending $1 trillion more than I'm bringing in. This number, of course, that delta is what increases this on an ongoing basis. Again, it just is what it is. We've identified it. It's there. We've got a deficit. We've got a delta that goes between what we're bringing in as a country as to what, in comparison to what we're doing as a total debt. You can see here we've got some challenges ahead of us, right? Those are really big numbers. And those are big numbers based on historically low interest rates. Right now, the government, Dimitri said 0.0005 interest rate in our banking accounts. We say 0 point nothing. But in essence, we're literally getting nothing for our banking monies. Right now, this debt that we see right here is based on a debt to China that's also 0 point almost nothing. Okay, so we're going to keep that on the back of your mind as we kind of look and see where we're going with all of this. Okay, that's where we sit today. There's even this number right here. We look at compared to this number. This is a number, and I'm going to be overstated a little bit. I'm going to say it's about 110 to 115% one to another. So in other words, this number is 115% of this number. I'm going to go to a different slide later. I just want to kind of, bring that to your attention because I'm going to make some correlations there as well too. Now this is alarming. This is daunting. This is challenging. But what's even more challenging and more daunting is, let me go down here a little more to something else that's not quite shown here yet. Okay. This is stuff that we've identified. This is stuff that we have money on. This is something that we, right now, can manage. In other words, I've got money coming in, and I've got money going out, and yes, I've got revenues, and I've got a deficit. Okay? I'm with you on that. What is extraordinarily alarming is down here when we start talking about Social Security, prescription drugs, and Medicare. Those are unfunded liabilities. Those are promises to pay in the future for services that I'm providing today. And the mark of $123 trillion. Okay? That's extraordinary. Okay? I'm a 51-year-old guy, turned 52 years old this year. You're already hearing the baby boomers, which I was a post-World War II child, kind of the end of that baby boomer. I'm like, that's like a 12 or 15-year period, depending on who you talk to. I'm at year 11 or year 12 of that 15-year period, so the guys who are 63, 64, 65 were the first babies born in this post-war boom. And it's the concept of the, you want to say the rat to the snake. We've got, on both sides of our era is, less children and before us and less children after us. But this baby boomer is rolling through the system, and this $123 trillion is just now starting to rear its head. You hear the conversation. No, there isn't going to be Social Security. No, we don't know how we're going to deal with this. No, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We hope. It's not much of a theory. It's not much of a strategy. We hope that doesn't really work for us. But what we see here is this is a number. I don't know where we're going to get that money from. You guys, maybe you two fellows, I don't know. Maybe I'll come to your house and live with you. I don't know. I'll figure that out. But the younger generations are going to do that. Okay, so I set all that stuff aside. Quantitative easing. Quantitative easing 1. Quantitative easing 2. We printed an exorbitant amount of money. We bailed out companies. Some of that money has been paid back to the TARP program. Quantitative easing 2, we decided to print a whole bunch more money. That money is still out there. quantitative easing 3, right now, we are printing $80 billion a month and injecting it into our money supply. That's printed money. That wasn't something that I went out and earned and I paid taxes on. That wasn't money that I generated a value for. That was just something that, it's a beautiful thing. If I could go to my bank account and I'll be able to pull up my statement and I could just go, okay, plus $250,000. Weren't you saying you wanted you need a business $100,000? Well, the government can do that. They go, okay, well I want $100,000. Okay, there it is. I didn't generate any business. I didn't do any service. I didn't sell anything. I didn't do anything. I just got to put it on the balance sheet. That's quantitative easing. That's what. Let's be real about it. Okay? That's money that we're printing for ourselves, that the government is turning around and buying. They're buying stuff, bank assets. They're buying some of the Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae stuff. They're buying assets from the bank. They're buying business loans. They're buying money. They're putting money out into the market, making it available for banks to be in business. Second concept. Banks are supposed to be in business. They've got the most amount of money they've ever had in the history of the world, and they don't know what to do with it. They just don't know what to do with it. So, keeping all this in mind, I'm going to shift gears here now, kind of set a foundation for some observations. Okay. Now, everything that I've kind of identified, we've all participated. We're all older folks here. So we've participated in the market. Most of us in our investing lives probably started thinking about investing somewhere in the 70s to the 80s, somewhere in here. So we've witnessed, this is an S&P stock index that just gives you an idea of the measurement of where the market has gone since, this started in 1955, 1956, as they've tracked it here just for the sake of conversation. What I like to say is that we have experienced the greatest amount of growth in the history of the world in our lifetime, my lifetime. I have experienced and been a part of the greatest increase in wealth in the history of the world. I mean, think about it. That's a pretty clear statement. There's never before. Look at, we could go back in the stock market back into the 1800s, and this line stays just about right there. We can go all the way back as far as wherever. Kind of irrelevant. Since 1980, we were talking about this other day, 1983 or 1984, we had this blip right here, 1982. And on the front page of the Newsweek or Time magazine, I don't remember, the end of equities. The stock market's going to crash. We've got 1932 going to hit us again. Dear Lord, the S&P is at 1,450. It went down to 850. It's the end of the world. We're going to be on the street corners selling pencils and, I don't know, selling eggs. We're going to have to go get a chicken coop and be able to feed ourselves. I don't know. They thought it was the end of the world. Look at what has taken place since 1980. Through the, you take it through the tech bubble, just about 2000. Look at that trajectory. Dear Lord, you could buy swampland in East Florida and you'd have made $100,000. There was nothing that you couldn't do during this time. People, we were getting 15, 20, 30, 50, 75% return on our investments. There was nothing you could do wrong. Until the tech bubble came, what you did, listen, I'm just putting numbers to it, and this, if you had $100,000 in the market here, you went down to 53, 54,000. If you $0 cost average into it, this was another enormous growth. Now you take place, this is about a 4-year period, 3.5, 4-year period where this took place, and then it took another 3 or 4 years, 5 years to get to this point. So we had a very, I'm not going to say a gradual time, but a significant over time decline here and a significant over time increase here, where we had people that, it was painful. People had 401ks. We're going to talk a little bit about 401ks, your traditional 401ks, the people who are your W-2 employees that have their 401ks and what took place there. your traditional IRA, where everything was buoyed in equity markets. I had mutual funds, I had stocks, I had anything that was tied to an equity market. I participated in here. 100,000 went to 50, then 53. I went up. I participated in this one. This one took place over an 8-month period. An 8-month period. Extraordinary. This amount of loss, if you had $100,000 here, right here, you're about 48, 47. I was talking with a gentleman earlier. He lost $90,000. When he pulled out at the bottom, dear Lord, why he did, I don't know. He had $14,000. So his 90,000 went down to 14. He pulled out. Okay, if you could write it out, you know, some of us younger folks, you didn't do anything, you just went, ouch, I just lost time. And you really lose any money, because today, we just hit, was it yesterday, we were at 1475, the highest point in the market. Again, even after this lesson, we're still in historic gains. I have no idea. I do this for a living. I have no idea where the market's going to go. I can't tell you. It's going to keep going. It's going to crash. We're going to be back down here again. I don't know. I won't even speculate. All I know is I'm going to give you some information. We're going to talk about it. You guys are smart. You come up to your own observation of what you think is going to happen. What I see between the two things I've shown you so far, so from the debt clock to this observation, what I see is volatility. You guys have heard this word before. The new word in investing is volatility. You put any number of volatility. You've got reinvestment volatility, you've got risk volatility, you've got whatever. Volatility is the new word. It's just going, and these are swings. Okay, we go up and down here, you know, and if you're a Fox News or a CNN or, you know, Bloomberg TV, on any given day, you can be in a wild frenzy. The world is, you know, the sky is falling, or you can be, you know, hey, everything's okay, because the pundits and everybody has always got some, you know, contrasting point of view, and, you know, we all just shut it off and go about our business on a normal day's work. We'd probably be just fine. But what this shows is volatility. Okay. I'm going to go on to the next one. Okay. What I have here, so this is the third idea, and we're going to go into 2 or 3 different directions with this. Okay, now the reason why I had you identify what the difference was between our total debt and our total GDP in percentage is because what this screen right here shows us that a percentage of the difference between GDP to debt is on this column. We've got starting from 1914 to 2014, the years as they go along. What you have here is you've got the amount of gross public debt versus a comparison to GDP and what was taking place at any given time based on your average tax rates. Okay? What you have here is you have the blue line indicates kind of us, your middle class marginal tax rate, not the lowest tax rate, but let's say middle income earners, those folks that are about $75,000 to $150,000 in income. This is us riding the purple line. The top tax bracket, the Warren Buffetts, the most wealthy folks are this green line right here. Okay, let's make some observations here. My first fun fact is you saw the debt clock, and we talked about our deficit, $1 trillion in deficit. You saw we have almost 17 trillion in debt, and we've got roughly 15 trillion in GDP. When do you think, name a year, when do you think the last time the United States had a balanced budget with 0 debt? Anybody care to just take a wild stab? Just for kids?
Never.
No, it was never. Thank the dear Lord. Someone had fiscal responsibility. Go, say, what was it?
98.
Was that 18? 17? 1835 was the last time we had a balanced budget and 0 debt. 1835.
And that was before they started doing our taxes.
You know, there's always been some taxation. You can't say that it was really, truly. There wasn't, you know, our income tax, but.
No income tax until what, 1913 or something?
Yeah, something like 1912, 1913.
Yeah, it was before the Civil War.
The 1830 was before the Civil War. If I could play this out, if I could take this all the way back to the Civil War, I would see this kind of a situation that took place in the Civil War. I would say it in the War of 1812. I would say it in the French Revolution. Whenever we have a war or some extraordinary circumstance like that, we get a GDP to GDP to debt of this nature. Okay. Okay. Second observation. Fun fact. 1935. Right here. Right here. The United States government created a level of taxation that they'd never had before. These were top earners, but you know, you could lump, and this is fun, you could lump certain numbers of people into those marginal tax brackets, okay? You know, the United States now is 350 million individuals within the country. Back in the 29s, I don't know what it was. It was sub 200 million or something like that. But in 1935, they had to create one marginal tax bracket for one individual for his income tax, and that was for J.D. Rockefeller, because he made $5 million in income. Okay, 1935, $5 million of income. I think it's hilarious. Anyway, sad, but true. So look at it here. So that's him. So 1935, we go up here. Look what tax rate he was at. Paid 80% of $5 million to the United States government. Oh. Now, I didn't see his tax return. I don't know what tax write-offs he got. I don't know what he did. You know, I don't know what he did or did not report. But he still had to pay 80% tax on $5 million. And at that time, you know, that was a significant chunk of change. Okay. Now, the reason that I show all this, the whole purpose of this is to show you that over time, you can see how the tax rates have fluctuated. Given any particular certain incidents that are going on, granted this is the end of the Second World War, I want to make an observation with individuals who are in their 90 or 95 years old who were probably our age, you know, 50-something, at about the time, or you know, 30 or 40-something, about the time that the Second World War was over, to determine austerity measures. What took place when we have a GDP and a debt that's at 128% of what we are? What took place? What did we have to do as Americans to overcome and balance our budget and have our income, the net revenues, the total taxation, be more than what we pay out in austerity measures, be it Social Security, be it whatever, subsidies, whatever it was. I'm sorry?
Sell bonds? And that where they were selling the bonds?
Well, that was during the Second. That was during the war, but after the war, it wasn't. We still had to get debt down, to buy debt down. We still have to, just like you, pay your debt. I have to use money out of my pocket that I've earned to pay down the debt that I've overspent on to get my costs down. So what did we do? I don't know exactly what we did. But whatever it was, I remember my grandparents and your grandparents, those people were shell-shocked from the Depression. Man, they didn't throw anything away. They were, you know, penny earned, you know, one in the, you know, in the bushel was worth two in the bush. They saved. Those people, they were doing things. So what I'm trying to do here is to say, okay, the taxation went on for a while. Look at that taxation. Even here, you and me, us, middle class, we're paying in excess of 80% of our income in taxation. Okay, up until 1964, this was about the Carter Ford era. It went down. We were experiencing stagflation. We had, I don't know if you remember at the time, to get a house loan at that, you're paying 18% for a home loan. Inflation was extraordinary. You had all of the gas prices. You had everything that was going on that was related to OPEC. And you remember, I don't know if some of you guys remember, the lines a mile long at the gas stations. And gas was, you know, we thought $2.50 at the time was insane when it was 50 or 75 cents. So extraordinary things were going on here. Ultimately, you know, 1983, 1984, 1985, when President Reagan came in, he cut the marginal tax rate way down. So the last 25, 30 years, we've experienced the lowest amount of taxation, and you saw my first screen, second screen, with the greatest amount of growth in the history of the world. We have flourished. We have. Think about the people who, like I say, in the middle 80s, who couldn't do anything wrong, and was still making 80, 90, 100% on their monies. Okay, so my question to you is this, and I'm not going to pontificate. I pose the question. We're intelligent individuals. Where does this go? That's just a rhetorical question. You answer it in your own minds. So, everything that Dimitri was talking about, all of the investments that he's talking about, the IRA, the traditional IRA, the Roth IRA, the 401k, all of those are going to be very important. And how you fund them and how you use those vehicles to your benefit, the government has given that to you. They've given you the ability to use these vehicles to overcome what is an inevitable. And we talked about some of the increases that already took place in 2012 going over to 2013. I want to go back to one more thing here, just to kind of show you, going back to here. Okay, so I go up here, and I talk to the sequester. And I think we have the time. How much time? Are we going okay for time?
Yeah. Anybody don't mind staying later than 9 o'clock? I'm fine.
I got about 10 more minutes,
Yeah.
roughly. I just want to make a couple observations, and then I'm going to conclude with you know, based on Dimitri set a solid foundation. We're going to expand a little bit on what he had to say, but everything he said is going to apply to what I'm going to apply to, because it's a sound principle. What he's offered you and what he's told you is a sound principle. Right here, the sequester. So you heard the hullabaloo about the sequester, and you know, we're still dealing with it right now with the not the strike, but the furloughs of the air traffic controllers, and you know, heaven forbid we have to stop you know, the tours of the White House. I mean, anyway, the sequester, we were talking about a cut of $28 billion. I'm going to put a number to it. We'll put a number to the reality of what the sequester was going to do and the ensuing chaos that took place because of it. The sequester wasn't even, when I'm talking about this number that goes from 3.5 billion up from 2.5 trillion, excuse me, 3.5 trillion up from 2.5 trillion, I'm talking about in our budget for next year, we were going to increase the budget just on a cost of living allowance, we were going to increase it 7%. All I said for the sequester was I'm going to cut 2.3% out of the 7% increase, and that number equals $28 billion. Okay, I wasn't taking money. I haven't even tried to deal with this. I haven't even tried to go from here and get this number below that number. I haven't even tried to do that. I haven't even tried to get that number down to that number yet. So my budget, I'm a guy sitting at my house with 4 kids, a house payment, and 2 car payments, and private school, and everything else, and I've got to figure out how to balance my budget, and you're telling me that I get to spend, you know, 50% more than I'm making, but I can't sustain that for long, and I've got to figure out how to change my lifestyle that's going to take me from there and get me underneath that number. Not only do I have to get underneath that number, but I have to get underneath that number so I can start paying off that number. We played that exercise once already. This number right here, the sequester, is only 2.3% of the 7% that I was going to say I'm going to increase my budget for next year over and above my $3.5 trillion. Okay, so I asked myself austerity measures. What austerity measures took place from from this point where we came out of World War II, where we were at the exact same place where we are today. And you saw the mire. They were going to say, we're shutting down. I'm a businessman. I have to travel next week. I've got to go back to Texas. I've got to go back to Houston. What is going to happen when me, the businessman, need to go do something where I need to create revenue? I'm going to go do some business so that I can pay more taxes. And if I don't go there, then I don't do the deal and I can't pay more taxes. I like to pay taxes because that means I'm making money, right? It's just like you guys. You guys want to pay more taxes because if I'm paying more taxes, I'm making more money. I like to do it at this rate. I don't want to do it at that rate, but if I can do it at this rate, I can live with that. I've been living with that. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this. I don't want 80%. In late 1970s, 1980s, we were paying 80%. So, all that aside, the only reason I'm going to that is because by showing you all of this, what I see and what the picture that I have out there is volatility, one. I don't know how to plan for the future. I don't know. In other words, I no longer have the ability, more or less, to be a foreseer of the future and see the growth that we experienced, that we were seeing on this. This was easy to forecast. We just went along for the roller coaster ride. Well, now this volatility means I've got volatility, I see austerity measures, and I see changes. I see uncertainty. This is what I see, and I see extended taxation. That's about the easiest way I can put it. Okay, having said all that, what does that mean? Well, just one more observation. Here is the banking. So we had mentioned banking. This goes back to, and you can take this all the way back to the 1800s as well too. Whenever a bank had a certain amount of money, whatever the government gave it, it turned around and lent its excesses out to business. You to buy your truck to do construction. You to buy that house. You to buy that commercial real estate. The money went from the bank, from the government to the bank, and the bank to the customer to do business. In the history of the United States, there was only one time, and this was right in 9/11. We saw a momentary glitch where the banks really were turning that money over to us to use. You heard after the 2008, 2009, that the banks stopped working. Small business people could not get loans. Even large business, I'm talking the Russell 2000 companies did not have access to money. They could not go to the bank and give money. The banks did not want to give out the money. They can get the money at 0 point nothing, and they can basically put an arbitrage where they get 1 or 1.5% in the overnight banking, and so they just move money amongst themselves, having a party amongst themselves, and not giving it to us. You see, if this is 0, and this is billions of dollars, they've got $1.6 trillion of monies that are over and above the amount of money that they should be giving to businesses. They are not turning that money over. Okay? So you guys want to go to the bank to get, I think when you were talking about the loan for one of the loans, you said hard money lenders.
Yeah.
Hard money lenders. With crisis, with catastrophe, comes opportunity. The Chinese symbol for crisis is also the symbol for opportunity. So with that, it's given us and private individuals the ability to, like you were saying, in the 401k, self-directed 401k, I can lend the money back to myself. I can be my own bank. I don't have to go to them for help. So, what does that do? Why do I even tell you all this stuff? What does that mean? Well, Dimitri talked about diversification. There's just this slide and one more, and we're done. And these are going to be very, very rapid observations. At Tremblay Financial, we utilize a diversification process called the triad. And the triad basically is utilizing 3 different sectors. So if I put these 3, what I'm calling non-correlated, I put that in one sector. This one, the growth and managed portion, I put in the second sector. And down here in the blue, it's, kind of, don't look at the way in which it's distributed, but it's to make a point. Below here is basically safe money, money where we transfer our risk to someone else and they pay us for the use of our money, but it is guaranteed, it is safe, it is very conservative, it grows, but we transfer, these two, we maintain the risk, down here we transfer the risk. So, what does this all mean? When we talk about volatility, we talk about taxation. Where does it take us? Well, everyone here is interested in real estate. This portion right here, these non-correlated assets, when we were talking about the volatility that took place on the S&P 500 over the last 15 years or so, the non-correlated assets are assets that do not rise or fall with an index or a correlation to the market with equity, stocks, and bonds. These assets are real estate investment trusts, these are equipment leasing programs, these are oil and gas programs, these are real estate in your 401, your self-directed 401k. This diversification is that which is not tied to the equities of the market. This portion right here, no matter where we are, we do want to have some correlation to the market because we want to be able to capture this growth. We don't want to participate in this down, but we certainly want to participate in the growth. Like I said, if you were a young person, let's say that you were just entering the workforce right here, or you were just entering the workforce right here, in the history of the world, you have never experienced this kind of return on an investment in this short a period of time, ever. So if you were a 20-something and you just came out of college and you got a great job making $100,000 a year and you opened your 401k and you put $20,000 in here, 3 years later you probably had close to $100,000. What if those guys are going, hey, I'm just giving you man, this is great, love it. But if we, the experienced all this, if we were $0 cost averaging through all this, so that I was buying here, was buying here, was buying here, was buying here, all the way along, my portfolio over time has experienced a pretty phenomenal growth, probably in excess of 15%. If I didn't sell, I didn't panic, I stayed the course, I maintained with the concept of a 401k or an IRA, I probably have a 15 or 20% return on investment. What's painful is that the stuff on $0 cost averages, I got a lot of good return on, but the stuff that I held and I lost in these, I just lost time. So the amount of time that it took for me to go from, say, 40 or 53,000 back up to my 100,000 took me 3 years. So traditionally, in that period of time, using the rule of 7, I probably should have almost doubled my money in that time, or at least 50% in it again if I had it invested roughly about 7 to 8%. So I lost time. So my generation, we took a hit. There's probably 7 years of lost time on our money here, where our growth, our compounding isn't going to take is not going to advantage as well because of the huge amounts of swing and volatility. So back to here, what we're trying to do, and you can look at this as you as a whole person. You could have inside here, you could have a 401k, you could have an IRA, you could have a self-directed IRA, you could have life insurance, whatever. This is you in general. This is you holding real estate. This is you holding real estate investment trusts. This is you holding mutual funds, stocks, individual stocks, whatever you want, holding basically a number of different stuff as alternatives, life insurance, and other assets that you transferred your risk to someone else who's paying you. You're not getting 8 or 10 or 12 or 14% down here. You're getting 3, 4, 5, 6%. So this is your safe money. And these up here are your growth monies. And what this shows is that in your growth, so let's consider this being a IRA. So everything, all of the dividends, all of the growth, all of the distributions, any kind of income that you're getting off of this is being invested into your portfolio, and it's just growing. 100,000 goes to 200,000, goes to 300,000 over 20 or 30 years. So ultimately, what we want to do is have the ability for all of the monies that we're talking about, the distribution, the growth, the dividends, come out to your checking account and basically replace your current financial job, be it a W-2 employee, or maybe you own a company and you retire and you no longer get it. Now your investment is bankrolling out into a checking account and in essence paying you to basically to live. So this diversification, utilizing everything that Dimitri talked about, plus other investments that you have, is basically the way that you're diversifying so that you are not correlated to the equity markets. You're passing along some of your investment risk to someone else, but still making a good return on your investment. And then you also have your portion that you're still going to have engaged in the equity markets. What you should get out of this, depending on when you entered the market and how you use dollar cost average and all those different things, can give you a return of somewhere between 9 to 15% conservatively. What we're looking for is the ability to get the greatest return of investment and be able to experience the least amount of risk to generate that income. We have found that in this particular investment portfolio diversification, that we have had clients that have been with us since the 1980s that experienced the volatility that you saw from 2000 to 2013 today, and literally did not lose a dime. Literally did not lose a dime. Did not participate in that up and down. So it's just the way in which this is functioning. It is a solid way of looking to diversify yourself so that you can ultimately meet your retirement needs that you're going to do, whatever that time reference would be. So some of the things that, and I'm not going to go into, but I wanted to mention, there were 3 other things. As Dimitri talked about, each one of these investments that you were talking about, 401k is a section 401k. There's 2 other investments that are sections that are a little bit uncommon that I call, one is a limited liability, a C Corp investment tool. And then the same concept that has for C Corp, you can also apply it to a private individual. So me just standing here, I could utilize that tool. The C Corp is a section 79, I do have a section 401, and then a section 7702. And what those both are, in essence, are similar to the self-directed 401k, gives you the ability to put in large sums of after-tax dollars into an investment over a 5-year period. For example, either one, 79 or 7702, I am a private individual and I want to fund my future income, my future retirement plans. I just happen to have, and I'm going to use a big number just to make the model the same implication that you have here. I've got $100,000 a year that I can put into this vehicle, to put it in $100,000 this year, $100,000 next year, the following year, the following year, the following year. I can put in $500,000 total, and I'm done. I'm a 50-year-old guy. I can let that, it's basically the same concept. It's a Roth IRA on steroids. 20 years later, I'm looking I'm going to retire, I'm done. My wife and I are going to go on a cruise and maybe buy that villa in Italy. I could probably, out of that $500,000, I'll probably generate $160,000 a year for 20 years. And once I've used all that money up, I have $160,000 a year for 20 years. It rolls into a death benefit upon my death. I hope I live to 105 years old, of probably $1 million in death benefit. So it shows you, just like with the self-directed 401k, you put inordinate amounts of money in, get an inordinate amount of return on investment, and the internal rate of return on that investment is roughly about 12 to 14%. Totally tax deferred with totally tax-free distributions, and ultimately with a tax-free death benefit. It's a very, very, very powerful tool if you have the finances to be able to do it. You could do it for $5,000, you could do it for $2,000, you could do it for $4,000. I just utilize the numbers to convey to you that it's a very, very powerful tool and you have it available to you as a private individual.
Does it have to be in like a trust process to avoid probate at some point?
You would probably want to do that, yes, absolutely, you probably would, because you're gonna pass it on to your heirs, yeah. So you could hold it privately as a private individual, or you can put it in a trust. You can, there's a different ways you can hold the title on it, yes. And that's it. Thank you very much, thank you for listening. I hope you guys got something out of it, maybe a couple ahas, or maybe the need to go and write your senator or your congressman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Michael, you've got some cards, we're sure.
I do, please, yes. I can answer any
Pick that up and say it now. Get back to Michael whenever you need to, get more information. I just wanted to get back to one quick thing here so we can wrap this all up. Okay, so we talked about the possibility of going to this event. Was anybody interested in going to the 3-day training by fortune builders in Buellton at the Marriott? Is anybody interested in that? Okay, so all you have to do is go back to our website, SBREIA, look up what we did this month here. In fact, let me just show you how you get there. This is how easy it is. Let's come over here. Okay, we're at the main website. Okay, main website. Come down, go to the meeting. We'll bring that up. And when you get down to the meeting, you'll see this little area here, 3-day training for $100. Click on that. That'll bring up another page. It tells you a little bit more about the summit, what's going on. And what you'll notice here is a toll-free number. You just call them up and tell them that you are part of the Santa Barbara, you are a member of the Santa Barbara Real Estate Investor Association, that you want to go to this meeting 3 days in Buellton, and as a member, they'll let you go for $100. And you don't have to have gone to anything else, you just call them up and tell them, and if you have any problem, get back to me. They said, no problem, Dan, we got you covered. You said you wanted to help promote this thing. Got a good thing going, we'll help you do that. Now, if you say, well, yeah, I'd love to go to this training, but I can't make it at the end of May, I have to go to something different, a different time, then what you need to do is tell them that. You'll have to actually go to one of the preliminary meetings that we went to. It was like a couple hours here at Fess Parker. And then once you go to that, that will qualify you to take a friend with you to some other date, some other location for $197, rather than paying, you know, the $197. So all you want to do right now is just make it at the end of May, you know, for that 3 days. $100 is an incredible amount of savings to get 3 days worth of training. Now, you know, anytime you go to any of this stuff, they're always going to say, this is all the information, this is what we do, show you how to flip houses, whatever. Are you ready for the next seminar, the next class, the next whatever? The next might be $3,000, and then after that $30,000. Because again, we did have a member go to this thing 3 or 4 years ago, and they paid $3,000 for what you can go to now for $100. But they also, after they got through doing that, were sold to go on to the $30,000 program, which they paid and they went to. And I think that member and I are going to probably do some joint work because there's some access to information there that could help both of us out, but we need to spend time. In any case, you just have to ask yourself, do I have the time, do I have the money to spend more to go on? Because no matter what seminar or whatever you go to, they're always going to give you the next level to go to. You just say no. Or you say yes, depending on whether it works for you or not in your budget. What you don't want to do, there are people that have gone out there and spent $150,000 on seminars and education and stuff and went bankrupt and lost everything. You don't want to do that. You know, we're here really to invest no matter whether you've got not a dime in your pocket or you've got millions of dollars in your pocket, to walk out the door and go, I'm broke, I don't have a dime, how am I going to make money with no money? Even if you have money, you don't want to go out there spending it. Your idea of investing is to figure out, how can I make the most amount of money without spending my money and make it work? Okay? Now, how can you do that? How can you make money without spending your money? Just keep coming here long enough. Part of the, you're going to have to work. I mean, the rent-ready properties that I do, I'm not spending any of my money, but I'm working. And you talk to my daughter and my son and my wife, and say, yeah, he's in there on the phone, you know, all night and all day. They know I'm working, but I'm not spending my money. The whole thing about this investing is you've got to figure out quality of life and where do you want to spend your time. Are you going to be on a plane all the time? If you love that, great, go do it. You better take a look at, before you jump into some part of this investing, what is the lifestyle like of the people who are doing it? Is that the lifestyle I want? That doesn't mean you have to do that your whole life forever. You can change. But if you're going someplace, first take a look at the lifestyle of the people who are doing what you think you want to do. And if it works for you, then great, go there. Okay? So that's the thing for $100. I'll be there. My wife will be there. And then you want to go to these things for networking, not just learning the information. A lot of us talk to people on the phone, and they've said, oh yeah, we'll come to the meeting, but we're not going to be there during that half-hour first section where they're networking, because I really don't want to talk to a bunch of people. Believe me, you're not going to make any money unless you get this talking to a lot of people down. You've got to get out there, make the contacts, and work with people, and build teams, and, you know, get out there and put your, yeah, you got to put yourself out. Now, is there anybody in here that wants a vendor table next month? That has a business they'd like to promote? If there's nobody here, then I'll dial, you know, when we get down to it and find the people who do. Are you going to be around, Mario, for next month, you think? It might be, you let me know. He's probably the most likely because he's got a REIA, and he'll come back here with some brochures and he'll talk to us about that REIA. He's got great stuff going on with people up there. And so that's a possibility. But if anybody wants one, just get back to me and let me know.
The 21st of the
Okay. I think our meeting next month might be Tuesday. It's not the last of the month.
So the 21st?
21st. I think that's where I have a meeting.
That's the third Tuesday.
Okay, so just let me know. We'd love to have you. And we've got somebody, so far, we've got somebody signed up for coming in as Paul Fink. Has anybody heard of Paul Fink? Okay, if you go to a lot of these different types of seminars, he's the guy that gets out there and coaches people on how to get the business going. He's done lots of investments, lots of real estate, but basically he's a great coach. So he's going to come in here and talk to us. We'll have some other speakers and we'll have some vendors as well. And then eventually, you know, each month you can look, you know, there's two places you can go on our website. There's, under meetings is our meetup.com calendar, which shows immediately what's coming up, and then under that is our Google Calendar, which is kind of like, well, here's 6 months worth of possibilities, but you know, there's no guarantee till we get there. If people aren't paying enough to speak or whatever, we'll find somebody who does, and they'll be out. So that's kind of a general idea of where we're going, but the specific one for the next month will be up on meetup.com. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you very much for making it. We'll be back here next month.